Hello ladies and welcome back to the channel. Ladies, in today's video we are going to talk hair, one of my all-time favorite topics. And as you guys have noticed, of course, and those of you who've watched my videos have seen, I've gone from very sort of pale creamy blonde to this dramatic dark brunette, sultry brunette. But there are pros and cons to both hair colors. As I have discovered, and I didn't think that this was the case, there are also cons to going darker. Now, I thought going darker would just be easy. You just put the dark on and you're done. Not so. So in today's video, I want to go through the pros and cons of being blonde, the pros and cons of being dark. I'll share my journey of going from blonde to dark because I'm sure a lot of you may be considering going from blonde to dark. So first of all, being blonde, let's talk about the pros. The pro you feel, at least for me, I felt sunny and bright and breezy. The big pro for me in the 40 plus category is that it does disguise the gray hairs. Being blonde disguises the gray hairs so much better. Guys, I could go up to 10, 12 weeks in between because as you know, your natural hair color grows out. Hopefully they have weaved in some dark or have left your natural color in between. You don't see a harsh line. And the little gray hairs just look like blonde hairs. You don't really notice them. I'm sure a lot of you guys never really even noticed that I was showing a lot of root. And if you did, it looks natural with blonde hair. So that is a big plus and a big pro for me. So for me, it actually meant fewer salon visits. So another pro for me was fewer salon visits because you can let your roots grow out 8 to 10, you can even push it up to 12 weeks. Now, especially if you are a natural blonde and you're just going a bit blonder, your darker root looks really good with the blonder ends. So again, you're not worrying about immediate root showing because it looks nice with blonde hair. If your root is darker, it looks good. If you've got grays, it looks good with a grow out. If you are already blonde and you're just adding highlights, it looks good. So that is the plus with blonde. Going blonde also means you're just highlighting your hair, not putting a solid color through, which in a way it could be considered a pro because you could get away with doing half a head or just your T-panel. So this front piece, you could do that every few weeks as well. And then skip doing a full head of foils, and that can actually sometimes work out cheaper. Doing a full head of color can cost quite a lot of money depending on where you go. That's something I've learned. And doing a full head root touch-up, you have to shop around, at least here in South Africa, because some salons charge almost the same as what they would charge for a full head of color. I don't know why. It's like marginally cheaper. You need to shop around. Some people will offer just your root touch-up in a solid color for quite a bit less. But like I say, not every salon and not the high-end salon. So I actually found, now that I'm dark and shopping around and looking for who's going to do my roots, I've actually found that being blonde, it hid the grays or hides the grays better. Your roots can grow out and you can actually go longer in between. Therefore, it may work out cheaper. Now, that isn't always the case. Again, this is all dependent on where you go for your hair. Some salons charge an arm and a leg to get you blonde. But once you're already blonde, the maintenance is just doing your foils, your in-between, not in between, but it's not a whole head of color. So foils, and that can actually be fairly reasonably priced. It can actually cost the same in the ballpark figure of getting your roots done with a solid color. Now, the cons to being blonde are that it is very drying to your hair, very, very damaging to your hair. You guys may remember, I'm sure you do, I would often appear here on YouTube, but my hair wouldn't be sleek and glossy and straight. It would be a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? It would be looking quite straw-like and there would always be a slight frizz to it unless I flat ironed it. Now you can overcome that by doing a Brazilian in your hair or doing like a microkeratin treatment or some form of treatment, but then that gets expensive. So the cons to blonde hair, the damage, and then you need constant treatment, constant moisture treatments, constant protein treatments. I find with the blonde hair, I was always buying and searching for the latest hair treatments. I tried K18, which I didn't find worked at all. It just made my hair, in fact, I'll link to that video in the description box below. For me, it just made my hair very hard and my hair actually would break off. Now, when your hair is blonde and you brush your hair, because the cuticle is so opened and frayed, it tangles a lot easier. So as you're brushing out, your brush is catching on the open cuticles. And so I would find that in any case, the blonde would sort of break off as I would brush through. So that's another major con for blonde hair. A lot of blondes also tend to go brassy, so that is a con for blonde hair there. So now you are either doing purple shampoos or you're putting toner in every now and then, and that adds up as well. So the cost can add up depending on your level of blonde, whether you went from a very dark base all the way down to a blonde, and the level of damage. You know, if you are already blonde, you guys have the best situation. You can actually use a high lifter to get a nice buttery blonde. If you are a mid-brown like I am, or having had dyed brown hair like I had before, getting down to blonde takes more bleach, longer processing time, more damage. Now, again, the psychological pros of being blonde, I feel that it looks beachy, fun. I feel more approachable in a way. Like people, maybe it's in my head, but I felt like people thought I was prettier. I don't know. I like the look of long blonde hair, but I like long blonde hair when it is healthy. There are too many fried and dried blondes walking around out there. So I will say that blonde hair is not always the best look on most women. Some women, they take care of their blonde. It looks beautiful. It's stunning. Like I say, nothing better than long blonde hair. Let's move on to the brunettes. The pros of being brunette is that it is one color. You just need to find a color that suits you, and then it's one and done. No more trying to also, because when you do blonde, here's another pros. When you do blonde, you're putting bleach. Now you have to match the processing time of your little foils in your root area so that it matches the level of blonde that the rest of your hair is. That is the advantage of doing foils though. There's no sort of solid line. When you are brunette though, once you found your color, you just touch up your roots with that same color, and every now and then when your ends are looking a bit faded, you will run the color through. Now that is in theory, the pro. The pro also to being brunette is health. Your hair will be a lot healthier because you only need what's called a developing cream, not the bleach powder. The bleach powder mixed with developing cream is what damages the hair. Now the developing cream does contain peroxide, so all box dyes come with the color and the developing cream, and all salon dyes come with the color, so it's the pigment and the developing cream. The developing cream can be 10 volume, 20 volume, or 30 volume. That is the level of peroxide in that developing cream. But even at the higher ends, the damage is far less than with bleach. I know this from first-hand experience, and I'm living proof. If you look at my hair now, so let's come up. That's why I'm filming in front of the window. My hair that has not had any bleach is this darker root area. Now we'll talk about that just now. And here you can still see the damaged hair that was blonde, and it has faded. It has not held on to the brown as easily or as well, and it gets quite light at the ends. So what I want to call my natural hair, my virgin hair that has only ever had dark on it, is very silky. When I touch it, it's like silk. Even though I've put 5 times of brown into this section of hair, there is no damage, no visible damage. This hair here, you can still see the straw-like quality. I will say though that putting brown through all of my hair has helped the quality of all of my hair. Not when I'm combing it out, not when it's wet, but look at it. It is a lot glossier looking, and this I haven't put any treatment on other than my normal wash, condition, and then a bit of hair oil. This is a lot better than it ever looked blonde. I'm sure you guys will agree. You can go back and watch all my old videos with the blonde hair. The con to being brunette though is that in my case, especially with grays, the roots show a lot more, especially if your base color is lighter. If you are young and you've got brown hair and you're just adding a brunette color, a brown on top, just to give it more life and vibrancy, you won't notice your roots hardly at all. With me, my natural color is lighter than this dark. So you can actually see I tried a different root color and it came out too light. So that is a con. If you want to lighten brunette, very difficult. You are going to need some form of bleach again. So very difficult to go back from brunette. Not impossible though. Of course, you just have to suck it up and take the damage. So you need to match your root color exactly to the color that you had you can't just go one shade lighter. And for me, the con is that the ends have faded, but that is going from blonde to brunette. That is not a con of brunette itself. And the con to brunette for me, like I say, is the root touch-ups now have to be done a lot more often. Therefore, the cost is adding up almost more than having blonde hair. Maybe not quite, but the cost of brunette hair, I would say actually in the end, it all evens out. I have spent probably the same amount trying to get a nice even shade of brunette. Now I know once I settle into a brunette that sticks, where the ends match the top here, and I found that the root touch-ups are easy, that will be a different story. I may be able to save a bit of money, but still, getting a hairdresser to either come to me or go to a salon every 2 to 3 weeks, because the grays show so quickly. In fact, here on the side, she didn't catch the grays. You can see the little gray hairs there. Every 2 to 3 weeks, we are looking at like a full head of root touch-up. It's going to add up. It's going to add up. Whereas with blonde, if I could go like 10 weeks in between, you save. And every week you could push it out, you save a bit more money. So I would say the cons, the cost is about the same, but the visibility of the gray hairs is a big con. I knew that was going to be a factor, but the con for me personally is that, sure, the minute you see a little gray, it sparkles, it stands out. Now I'm not, anyway, so the health of the hair is a big pro for me with brunette hair. Does it suit me though? This is the question, and this is an individual pro or con. I think personality-wise, being a brunette, I feel less visible. I feel less noticed. I feel that men don't look at me, but that could be in my head as well. I feel that men don't look as much or as easily. But again, I have just come out of a relationship and gone through a tough year. I may just not be in the right headspace for noticing eyes on me, or I'm just getting older. Now, I did ask you guys on a community post to vote on which hair color suited me best. This is something that you could do amongst your own friends and family if you want to change hair color, are thinking of changing hair color, or have been different hair colors. So I also asked on Instagram, and this is where my thumbnail, who wore it best? Well, who did I wear best? Did I wear blonde or brunette best? I'll count it for you now. So I tallied up the votes. I just put them all here in my little journal. And I just gave a tick for every blonde and a tick for every brunette. And where a lot of you said that I could get away with both, like I suited both. And I do think I suit both blonde and brunette. But as you can see, brunette far outweighed the blonde. This is the brunette column here. And that is the blonde column. And I feel like, most of you prefer the brunette on me. Let's talk about eye color and hair color. I do feel that blonde on certain people, like possibly myself, can wash out and fade out your eye color. So when I was blonde, I didn't really notice, or I didn't think my eye color was that noticeable. Now that I'm a darker hair color, when I watch back videos, I feel that my green eyes pop a lot more. Yes, I don't really wear more makeup as a brunette, but I do feel that when I wear makeup now with the dark hair plus the makeup, and I've dyed my eyebrows darker to match, it pops my eye color. Often that is the case with dark hair color, if you have blue eyes or green eyes, even dark eyes, but often I also find that blonde hair can pop a dark eye color more. Think Katherine Heigl, so she's got the blonde hair and the brown eyes, and I've seen her with brown hair color, and it doesn't suit her eye color as well. Think Dakota Johnson. She is actually naturally a blonde, but when she goes dark on her hair color, her eye color really stands out. Those blue eyes, I think it's blue eyes she's got, really stands out. So that is another pro and con for the hair colors, is that the right hair color could really make your eyes pop. And I do think that brunette hair color makes pale eyes pop, and that blonde hair color actually makes dark eyes pop. However, my personal struggles is this dark area here, and for some reason it's gone very dark in the front, very inky, almost black. Now, why that is, I don't know. Maybe it's because the hair is finer, maybe it's because I had that more reddish color on that section before, and something to do with the pigment in that red, because it had a lot of like violet purple tones, red violet. Maybe that mixed with the neutral brown, I don't know, it sort of created this black color. But I will say that, and you see here how faded it is over there, but I will say personally I like the brunette. I like the brunette. I just need to get all my hair one color. So for me, the cost overall is almost the same, and I thought I would be saving money on brunette. Personality-wise, I do like the blonde. I feel vibrant, bubbly, beachy, sunny, more outgoing. But with the brunette, I feel more serious in a good way. I feel it suits me better, actually. I feel it warms up my skin tone. I do think I should have, when I changed over from blonde to brunette, I should have gone to one salon, made the decision, and committed to one color, not fucked around with different root colors first, because I think that has contributed to the inkiness, the darkness over here. That is okay. We will get through that. I think long term, if you are younger and you don't have any grays, brunette is better, easier to maintain. If you are older and you're starting to have more and more gray hairs come through, like 45 plus, blonde may be your better choice. So I may end up reverting back to blonde down the line, but I think for now, I personally want to enjoy being brunette. I'm just going to experiment and experience and see how it goes with root touch-ups every 2 to 3 weeks to see if I can handle it, if it drives me nuts, if it drives me crazy. You guys, I would be so curious to hear your thoughts. What do you think are the pros and cons of each hair color? Do you think that your hair color affects your mood? Do you think it affects your personality? Do you think, have I missed out any pros and cons as well? Because I could be only focusing on the pros and cons in my mind, but maybe for you, the pros and the cons of each hair color are different. Let me know in the comments below your experiences with a different hair color. Which do you think is easier? And I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next video. Bye.